or a paper. I mean, like, we're in January, dude. It's not even the first time you haven't brought paper.
What do you keep in the background? Okay, just have paper. Start carrying paper.
Alvin, you got a backup notebook now? You found another one? You got to keep that one hidden. Okay, so quick reminder. Remember, after every slide, I will count for about 30 seconds, but make sure you're submitting your slides before I move on so I can give you credit for participation. So today we are simplifying algebraic expressions by combining like terms. We are not distributing today. We are actually going to be factoring today. I should really start doing this before the lesson. Okay, so let's look at some vocabulary. So we looked at greatest common factor yesterday. We are going to be using greatest common factor today. So I'm going to go through that first example where I show you exactly what I mean by how we're going to use it. Factor. You use the greatest common factors to rewrite the sums of products as the products of sums. And I will explain that a little bit better in a minute. Okay, we're going to review distribution really quick. So this is going to be all you from yesterday. So go ahead and take a minute, and I want you to use you can use your notes. You're going to do it on the screen, and you are going to distribute. You got it. Don't you worry. I know what I'm doing. Remember, you're doing this on your computer screen. Okay, everybody's looking pretty good. Don't forget to rewrite it at the bottom once you finish solving. I like it. Excellent. Ready, stop, rotating. Again, we got what you said. And then you can go ahead and submit once you're done writing it down. That looks good. I feel like everybody got it, guys. It looks good. Okay, about 30 more seconds to finish up. Don't forget to click submit. Yeah, you're, no. Like we say to the babies, back after that. No. You have a notebook, scribble on the map. You know, one time I pulled up the screen in a second or fourth block, and guess whose screen popped up first? Yeah, yours. The kids were like, "What is that?" I went, "He likes to scribble on his screen. You know, for fun." Make sure you've submitted. Jesus, you too. Ruby, we gotta finish up. Alan, I don't see anything on your screen, and I'm about to kick you out of the meeting. Yvonne, I also don't see anything on yours. Junior, that looks good. Don't forget your variable. Randy, check the sign of your second number. A negative times a positive should not be giving you a positive. Hey, Jose, don't forget your variable. Alan, that's much better. Ruby, don't forget to bring down your variable. It looks good in the box, but you forgot to bring the variable all the way down. Okay, for those of you at home, even if you are not completely finished, I need you to submit. Because I am about to change slides. Okay, so we're moving on to factoring. So for the most part, it looks like we're doing pretty good with distribution. Like I'm happy at what I'm seeing when we did that little warm-up problem. So factoring is kind of, let's call it backwards. So let me show you what I mean. So normally when we did a problem yesterday, our problem would end like this. For factoring, and in your notebook, you're going to label it factoring so that you can see the difference between distribution and factoring. Now we're going to start our problem like this, and we are going to end it with a problem that looks like a distributing problem. So make sure this is in your notebook before I begin showing you how to do it. For those of you at home saying you are writing this down in your notebook, don't forget, for those of you coming in tomorrow, I'm not reteaching this tomorrow. So if we don't get it today, then we've lost it. Although I may go back in and add one problem as a warm-up tomorrow, just to see what they remember, what you remember. Okay, so for factoring, and you know how sometimes we write out a criteria for success? Well, I want us to write out a couple steps for factoring so that you can kind of remember the difference between distribution and factoring. So to the side of where you wrote your problem, you can put factoring steps. You can put a little star around it, or next to it, I mean. And then we're going to put down a few steps so that we don't forget how to do it. So our first step for factoring is that we want to find the greatest common factor. And notice how I'm not writing down just GCF. I want to make sure that you know what I'm talking about. The greatest common factor. That is the first thing we are going to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve for the greatest common factor. So in order to solve for the greatest common factor, I am going to kind of set up my two numbers. So I'm going to look for the GCF for these two numbers. Now you can choose to do it like this, or if you just want to write one number on one line and the other number on another line, that is fine too. But I don't have any lines. So, numbers that multiply together to give me 15. A few tips. Let's say you're not sure what numbers multiply together to give you 15. Well, in your notebooks, remember, you have these. You also have these. If I want to see what numbers multiply to give me 15, well, I can just check on my answers. Well, are any of these giving me 15? Oh, yeah. 5 times 3 gives me 15. And then I can just look to see if any other numbers are giving me 15. So I know for sure that 1 and 15, or 1 times 15, give me 15. I just saw that 3 and 5 give me 15. And that's about all I found. So again, keep in mind, you can use those sheets. You can also even use your calculator. Now I'm going to do 6. So that I know that 1 and 6 give me 6, because 1 times 6 gives me 6. What else gives me 6? 2 times 3. Anything else? No, right? Okay. So now I'm going to look for my greatest common factor, which is the biggest number that goes into both. So I know 1 goes into both, but can 1 be my greatest common factor? No, it cannot. I know 3 goes into 15. Does it also go into 6?
Yeah.
Yes. Could that be my greatest common factor?
Yeah.
Yes, because that is the biggest number that goes into both. 2 doesn't go into both. 5 doesn't. 15 and 6 also do not. So my greatest common factor is going to be 3. So I'm going to give you a second to make sure you wrote that down. because I'm going to erase that part. We're good? Okay, so because I know that this is important, my second step says this. The greatest common factor goes on the outside left of my box. Now, more specifically, and I'm writing that down because sometimes I've seen that people get confused. So we said my greatest common factor was what? 3. So I'm going to put 3 right here. And I'm going to run out of space for my steps, so I need to make sure you write it down before I erase and write steps 3 and 4. I think 3 fits here. So write problem inside box. I love that sound though. Let's put inside boxes. Sorry, I know my writing, sideways writing, sucks. And what I mean by that is I have negative 15 minus 6y. I'm going to put negative 15 minus 6y. Okay, put your pencils down once you're finished writing so that I know I can erase. Okay, step number 4. I'm leaving the other ones on the bottom just in case. Your last step is you're going to factor. And I'll show you what that looks like. And I'm going to kind of walk you through 2 different ways that you can do this. One, just using your head. One, using your calculator. So, once you get to this point, how many times does 3 go into 15? It goes into 15 5 times. 5 times. But what happens to that negative? Well, it goes into negative 15, negative 5 times. And I didn't want to show you how to take the negative out for this first problem, but I will for the next one. So then how many times does 3 go into negative 6? 2. It goes in negative 2 times, and I have to bring my y up. That variable always needs to come with the a number. What am I going to do next? I'm going to cross out box and rewrite. Why am I crossing out the box? Because if I don't cross out the box, people are going to write what's in that box again. So I'm writing 3, open parentheses, -5 minus 2y. Do you notice how that looks like a distribution problem?
Yeah.
So we really just went backwards. This fifth step, very important, because if you do not cross out that box, the biggest mistake is that people write down what's in that box again on the bottom. Okay, I know we're done with steps 2 and 3. Are we done with steps 4 and 5? Almost? Yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and come to the first problem we're going to try, not all by yourself. Okay, so what is step 1 when we are factoring? Find the greatest common factor. I want you to find the greatest common factor for 5 and 30. That's all I want you to do. Yes, you may do it on your paper, but it either needs to be on your paper or on the screen. There shouldn't be no writing. Remember, you can use your multiplication chart. You can use your calculator. Borrow one of these, and when you come into class, if you want to just grab one, that's why they're there. If anyone is stuck and you would like to try using your calculator for the number 30, because I know 5 is easy, you can do, well, I have 30, and you can do divided by 2. Does that give you anything? 30 divided by 3. Does that give you anything? And you can just create a multiplication chart for 30.
Guys, if you do that, when she says that give you something, she means a whole number, not a decimal. To say that she wants to have decimals down.
I didn't think about it.
It is, yes. Okay, so scheme number 5 is easy. Only 1 times 5 is 5. So it has to be one of those two numbers.
Okay, so 5. Who can tell me what numbers give you 5? 1 and 5. Is that it? Okay, that's it. That one was easy. Did anybody need to create a multiplication chart for 30? No? We already just knew all of them? No? Yes? Sort of? Maybe? So what's one pair of numbers that gives you 30? I need one person to tell me. You, go ahead, give yours. Give me, so 1 and what gives me 30? 1 and 1 times what gives me 30? 2? Well, yeah, 2 times 15. Okay, you give me 2 numbers. Okay, that works. That's fine. What else, Alvin? Who? Okay, we're having a little bit of an issue here. So, yeah. Okay. So if you're creating a multiplication chart, which I think some of us need to do that, and I put in my calculator. Let's start with 1. 30 divided by 1. That tells me, so I'm doing 30 divided by 1, right? That gives me 30. What does that mean? That means that 1 times 30 gives me 30. Now, if I do 30 divided by 2, what would that give me? 15. So like you were saying, 2 times 15 gives me 30. So let's say I do 30 divided by 3. What does that give me? It gives me 10. So, Jesus, that means 3 times what gives me 30? 3 times 10. 30 divided by 4. So if I did 30 divided by 4, that would give me 7.5. Does that work for me? No. So 4 is not one of my factors. If I do 30 divided by 5, what would that give me? It would give me 6. So that means 5 times 6 gives me 30. Now that I can think of, does anything else go into 30? 10. We have 10. So I can use this to do my chart. So I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, I have 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. Remember, you want to put them in kind of an order. Now, when I look at my factors, what would be my greatest common factor? It would be 5. So where does that 5 go around my box? Does it go inside? Where is it? Outside left. Good. Remember, that's in your steps. So now, where does 5a minus 30 go? Look at your steps. Does it go outside or inside? It goes inside. Those of you just calling out randomly because you're not looking at your notebook, that does not work. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and try the next step on your own, on your computer. Follow the steps from the first problem we did and try to solve. Think about it. How many times does 5 go into 5? How many times does 5 go into -3? If you're not sure, grab your calculator. 5 divided by 5. -30 divided by 5. Use your resources.
Make sure you put a subtraction. Otherwise, you did. All right, good.
Exactly. If you're not sure, if you're not sure, you're going to put 5 divided by 5. And it's going to go up here.
But what we're trying to do is remember we did that clearly, number on outside, something else on the inside. So this here has to be a parentheses. So what was on the outside? Look at what we did yesterday. We had outside here, but when on the outside, the number over here, right? And what was in parentheses? What was on top, right? So here's the same thing. This is in parentheses and this is in outside. So just go backwards from outside. Okay?
Okay, let's go ahead and look up here. So I know some people got a little bit stuck.
Okay.
I need all eyes up here because this is just the second problem that we do. So I need to make sure everybody knows what's happening. So I know I saw some people getting confused. How many times does 5 go into 5 mean? Well, very simple. If I was to take this 5, how many times does 5 fit in there? Well, I'm not really sure what that means. Well, if I'm looking at my calculator, I would be doing 5 divided by 5 to see what that gives me. If I move on to the next number, same thing. I would see how many times this goes into that. So I put -30 in my calculator divided by 5. So when I was going around, I saw some people writing their answer here, but they didn't write anything up here. I don't want that to cause confusion because then you forget to put the parentheses. How many times did 5 go into 5A? One what? 1A. Is it okay if all I write is A? Yes, it is. It means the same thing. How many times does 5 go into -30? -6. Good. So now in my steps, what did it say I needed to do next? Write it, but what did I have to do to my box? I need to cross out my box so I don't get confused. And I'm going to rewrite it. So when I rewrite it, my problem looks like that. Go ahead and submit, and we're going to look at another one. So our goal is for you guys to be able to do it all on your own by the end. Submit, submit. Look, you come up right there. Look at you. You're always the first one in front. Okay, go ahead and start by factoring this problem. And this is an easy one. I should have given you a harder one. Even though I'm pretty sure this one is going to confuse a little bit.
Mi paso uno es hacer la factorización. ¿Cuáles números? Seis y dos. ¿Qué número de ¿cuál es el primero? ¿Qué número puedes multiplicar por nada? Ok. ¿Qué otro? ¿El 4? ¿El 5? ¿El 6? ¿Sí o no? Ok. Ahora vamos al 2. ¿Dónde empezamos? ¿Cuál es el término? ¿Hay más? Pues por 3 hacemos 2, ok, pues terminó. A mi pregunta es, ¿cuál es el número más grande que tenemos? Ok, siguiente paso, ¿dónde va a ser? ¿Cuál es el paso número 3? Que vaya del cielo, papá. Muy bien. Ese es tu paso 3. Okay. Fíjate en los sitios. Fíjate otra vez. Fíjate en los sitios.
Remember, start with something inside the box and we were taking things that were outside the box, right? Greatest common factor. Yeah. Okay, but what, this is just choosing. The other side is thinking. There you go. Okay.
Ese es mi paso 3. Mi paso 4.
Okay, once you factor, go ahead and try.
That was very good. Okay.
You can move on from factoring if you feel like you're comfortable with it.
Siempre, haciendo bien los dos. Primero, tienes que poner el número en el ¿dónde va este número? Ok. Y te falta muy bien. And I like to gracias por acordarte de la okay. Factoring, I think that's always the hardest, that, and then remembering to rewrite it correctly, which is why this year I added it across the box.
Yeah.
So that way they can't see the box before they rewrite it. Because remember, I didn't put steps last year, but they'd always write what was inside the box.
So my final answer is what?
Okay, so I'm not even gonna ask you what all the factors are of 6 and 2. What did we get as our greatest common factor? 2. 2, thank you. We got 2. And then where does 6a minus 2b go? Inside or outside? Inside. So 6a minus 2b. Do not forget to bring the subtraction or whatever it is inside with you. How many times did 2 go into 6a? 3, 3a. Do not forget your variable. How many times did 2 go into negative 2b? Negative 1b, or you can just do negative b. But don't forget that negative. What do I need to do before I rewrite it? Cross out my box so I don't make a mistake. And then my answer is 2, open parentheses, 3a minus b. So as I was walking around, it didn't look too bad. We were doing pretty good. I saw some people forgetting variables, but that was really about all I saw. Okay, so we are actually going to stop right there. We're going to pick up with a little bit more factoring in the morning. So if you make sure that you are logging on tomorrow. Just because you're not in the building does not mean you're not in class. You may go ahead and start working on your classwork. Make sure you submit because I'm about to leave the screen. Alvin, don't forget to submit. Junior, you need to finish it up and submit because I'm about to switch screens.